Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Biz from bsnooch.com, and I'm back with another SMOD Mapadd 101 video. So the two-part series is actually going to be a three-part video series because I realized in the last video I kind of I typed out some code here for you guys and said, hey, I'm going to explain this to you how it works, and then I never actually did. So I figured this would be a good time to go over, exactly how the Mapadd code works, so you have a better understanding of how to use it. So we're going to use our NPC citizen from the last video, and we're still working on D1 Canals 06. And let's get right to it. So the first thing, of course, when we want to create an entity, we got to tell the game what kind of entity it is. So we used an NPC citizen on our last video, and again I want to just show you guys that the Valve developer wiki has a whole list of base entities that are in the source engine, and you don't have to make it an NPC. I mean, you can do stuff like environment messages, logic stuff, so there's a lot you can do, props. And then there's also a whole list of Half-Life 2 entities that are specific to Half-Life 2, so you can use these also. So that's the entity class. You know, you're going to take something probably off that list and put it in the game. And then after that, we open a new data section with a curly brace, an opening and closing one. And basically that means anything between those two is going to describe to the game engine, we're going to tell it stuff about this entity. So when you look at any Mapadd, usually the first one, the first data point about the entity is going to be the origin and the angle. Now the origin tells the game where to spawn the entity at in your map, and it's always going to be relative to the 0, 0, 0 mark in the map. And angle kind of works the same way. That tells the game which way the entity should face. And I'm going to show you actually a couple different ways how to get that. So let's let me come over here and shut a couple things off. So one way, of course, is if you have your physics launcher, you can always use the alt fire on it and tag some kind of entity that you want to clone, and of course it prints to the console Mapadd code for it, and some of that is the origin and angle, so you can always do that. Another handy way is there is a console command called cl_show POS, and that stands for position. You can set that to 1, and then in the top right hand corner you'll see there's some numbers up there, position and angle, and also velocity. So that tells you wherever you're standing in the map, POS is your position. So you can literally just copy that into a Mapadd file, type it in, and that'll work. So if you want to stand somewhere and decide that's where you want your entity, that's another good way to do it. There's also a third way, and this is specific to Half-Life 2 SMOD. You can use in a command called impulse 90, and when you type that in, you'll see that it prints out a whole bunch of nice, neat, ready to go Mapadd code of the player's position, where your eyes are looking, and also a trace position thing. So that works great. Let me see if I can explain the trace position here for you. So if we come over here and let's say put in impulse, well, let me clear the console here, and we put in impulse 90. The trace position is basically wherever your crosshair is pointing. So I've got it pointing at this ledge. If we take that and copy it into our Mapadd file for our citizen, he should spawn. Let's save it and restart the game here. He should spawn up there on that ledge. Let's see. Yeah, there he is. So that's kind of how trace works. Whatever your crosshair is pointing at, that's the position that it's going to print out in the console when you use Impulse 90. So there's a couple ways to do the origin. Generally speaking, when you look at the origin code, the X and the Y are going to be like north and south and east and west, just depending on how the map was built. And you can use positive numbers in there and negative numbers. Generally speaking, the Z origin is going to be elevation, so how high up or how low something is. Angles is always going to depend on your entity, but generally I find the Y one is what you want to change if you want to make something face left or right, relative, like for example, an NPC citizen. When you want to make him turn left, you're going to want to put something like 90 degrees for the Y. But you got to kind of fool around with it. The other thing that goes in the here is the key values section. Now this is gonna open a new data section, and in here we add keys and values which give the entity its traits. So for example, with our citizen that we used in D1 Canals 06, we gave him a model, so we specify which exact model he should use every time he spawns. And we also gave him a key value of additional equipment, which gives him a weapon, and in this case we gave him a weapon SMG1. Now you can have just as many you can have as many of these as you want. There's no limit, and a good place to find them, of course, is always the Valve developer community wiki. Some of these though, like for example, it'll tell you the key value is weapons. For some reason they updated this thing at some point and got rid of the actual key values and put in this dumb text here. So you may have to go up to the view history tab, and I find like January 2009 is a good time to go back, because it has the actual key values in here. So instead of just telling you weapon, which will not work in the Mapadd script, it gives you the actual key value, like additional equipment. Another great way to find them if you're ever confused with the Valve developer wiki, like for example ammo to resupply, you can always open Hammer Map Editor and drop a entity in your map, and you open the properties for that, and let's just type in whatever entity you're trying to do, and it'll have a bunch of values here. So for example, let's do citizen type. This is very geared towards the map maker. These aren't the actual key values that the game uses, but it's really easy to see, hey, I want to change the citizen type. And sometimes they'll even have like some nice handy help tips. But so if we want to set the citizen type to, let's say, a rebel soldier, so it wears the rebel soldier uniform, you go ahead and set it and then click apply, and then there's a button right here called Smart Edit. You actually turn that off, and then it'll give you the literal key and the literal value. So if I wanted to set my citizen to wear a rebel uniform, you copy that citizen type, and we'll just put it right up here as a key value, and then the actual value, I believe, was 3. So you set it like that. And let's go ahead and restart. And check it out. Now he's on the ledge and he's wearing a rebel uniform. So that's really how it works when you're doing a Mapadd file and putting entities in. That's the bare bones basics. There is some custom stuff we'll go over at some point, and there's also outputs to do, but that should give you kind of an idea of how it works. And then again, next video we will be going over the pre-cache section of the Mapadd and also the random spawn, and that'll be it. I mean, you'll have the whole Mapadd file basically covered, and from there we'll kind of add complexity to it. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.